Hey guys, it's Donna with Resale Tips and Tales, and today I bring you part 2 of my inventory series. Part 1, make sure you go back and watch that if you haven't seen it already. I show you how I inventory everything on paper and in the computer. And now today I'm going to show you how I actually store my physical inventory and account for it so that I know how to find things quickly. So I've changed my way of inventory storage since we moved last. The last place that I lived, we had a garage and I was able to store everything out there, and it had some pros and cons. The pro is that I didn't have to look at everything all the time. The con though is that it's dusty and it was dirty and had bugs and things like that. So I had to always worry about how I was storing things. However, when we moved, I was kind of forced to organize my inventory a little bit better. And so now I use a lot of clear totes, which I love because I can see everything that's in them and get to things quicker. But I also came up with a lettering system that I'm going to show you on how I can grab things quickly. Also, as you saw in the first video, I always write the letter, especially for the clothing, of the location of where things are so that I can grab things quickly, which is very, very important. So let me give you a little tour of where my inventory resides. This is kind of my station back here where I do all of my pictures, and I have shipping and whole bunch of boxes. Thankfully, the home that I live in now has a completed basement, so it's all eBay stuff. It's the full basement. So anyway, all right. So over here, I have some totes with miscellaneous items, so things that aren't clothing. So I have my toys and stuffed animals. I have ties. Now the way that I store my ties, I roll them up and put them in a nice sandwich baggie, and that way they don't get tangled up or creased or anything like that, and they're much easier to find. This one has like games again and just miscellaneous items stacked up to the ceiling, and again more miscellaneous things. Now this tote here has all purses, so I know that if I sell a purse, it's in this here. I used to, in my last home, store all of my clothing in a dresser in the garage. It worked for the time. However, I hated having to dig through everything. Everything got unfolded. It was just so much more difficult to find things quickly to pull. So I'll show you my clothing here in a second on how I store those. But the last thing here I want to show you is I also have a little tiny small bookshelf that holds all the miscellaneous coffee cups and books and other games and that kind of stuff. So I always know where those things are because I don't have oodles of inventory yet. So might have to change that system too as my inventory grows. All right, over here, this also serves as my guest room. So if anybody needs a night to stay. Anyway, so this is what I've ended up doing. See if I can step back for a second. So right now I have A through H, and these are all my clothing items. Okay, now I've seen other sellers, these are just some ideas that you could use, but some sellers will polybag them in clear bags right when they take their pictures for listing. I don't do that because I feel like it's a waste of my time in the beginning, and not all of my clothing sells. So that way I've not wasted the poly bags either. So what I currently do is I just fold them neatly and I put them in here. And again, I can see if I can bring you around the side. I can see how they're in there. So they're stacked nicely. I haven't had any problems with losing anything as long as I put the letter on my inventory sheet and then I put it on my spreadsheet in Excel. I've been good to go. I haven't had any problems. No problems with buyers either. And actually, I wrap mine in tissue paper. I don't put mine in poly bags. So I put them in tissue paper, put them in the shipping bag or the box. I haven't had any problems. I make sure that I tape up the edges. Make sure you see my shipping video on how I protect the items. But I do tape up the edges so no moisture gets in or rain. So that's what works for me. Again, this is my system, so you can use it. It works for me. You can give me comments. Let me know what maybe some things I can change or some tips. But you have to find what works for you. So always remember that no matter who you're watching, find what works for you and tweak it. Do what works for your space too. Everybody has a different space on how they can store things. And then lastly are my shoes. So the last house, when I first started eBay, I actually just stacked my shoes on the floor. I only had like 10 shoes. So then as I grew, I also got one of those shoe racks. Well, the shoe rack fell apart, so that didn't work. I walked out one day to my garage and all the shoes were on the floor, so that was just horrible. So when we moved, I decided to put them in totes. Now, I haven't inventoried them necessarily yet, but I kind of have them by category in the totes, like athletic shoes, dress shoes, boots. So I know kind of which tote to go to first, but I only have a few, so this hasn't been a big issue. But again, they're just in these purple totes here, and I've got all the shoes in there, some nice pair of boots on top so they don't get messed up. And then I have a couple of them down here as well. So again, I unstack them. I'm hoping the next place that I live, I'll have some actual racks that I can put the totes in. That's where I'm moving next. So that way I can just pull one tote out instead of having to unstack all of the totes. So that's one thing that I do hope that I can change. I also have this little cubby thing I used at my last house, but I love it here because I can hide all my to be listed items. So everybody talks about their death piles. This is my death pile and my death shoe pile here that I hopefully will get to eventually. That's how we all hope for, right? Anyway, so that's really my inventory system. That's how I store things. That's how I find things. I haven't had any issues so far. Kyla wants to say hi.
Hi.
Hi. So if you have comments or suggestions you want to leave or tell me how you do your inventory, also make sure you like and subscribe to the videos and the channel. All right. Until next time, guys, happy thrifting.